There are places in this world where history doesn't stay buried, where the past doesn't fade. It marches. On certain nights, on certain paths, you might hear them before you see them. Drums, chants, footsteps, too many to count. They are not lost. They are not wandering. They are moving with purpose. Ancient warriors, bound to their chiefs, the torches still burning, their orders never ending. And if you're standing where they walk, it could be the last thing you ever do. Don't look at them. Don't stand in their path. Don't make a sound. Welcome to Project Black Garden, a Monsters and Myths podcast. Season 4, The Nightshade Files. File number 200. The Night Marchers. I'm your host, Michael. And tonight, we walk the path they never left. Shall we begin? In Hawaii, the Night Marchers are deeply rooted in ancient Hawaiian tradition. They are believed to be the ghostly processions of ancient warriors, chiefs, and guardians who march across the islands at night along sacred paths. These spirits are not random apparitions. They are said to be royal warriors escorting high-ranking chiefs or deities, often tied to the service of Hawaiian gods. Before becoming legend, the Night Marchers are tied to real history. Ancient Hawaii had highly structured warrior societies loyal to ruling chiefs. These warriors traveled in strict formations, often carrying torches and chanting. Certain pathways, especially near burial sites, battlefields, or royal grounds, were considered forbidden or sacred. Over time, after death, these warriors were believed to continue their duty in the afterlife, endlessly marching the same sacred routes they once protected in life. Encounters with night marchers are among the most chilling in Hawaiian folklore. A distant drumbeat or rhythmic chanting carried on the wind, with torches glowing in the darkness, moving in formation. The sound of footsteps, many synchronized and approaching fast. Then sudden silence, followed by an overwhelming presence. Witnesses often describe a procession of shadowy figures, sometimes visible, sometimes only heard, but always disciplined and always purposeful. The Hawaiian tradition is very clear. You do not interfere. If you encounter night marchers, do not look directly at them. Drop to the ground immediately and face down. Show respect and submission. If you have ancestral Hawaiian blood, calling out your lineage may protect you. Breaking any of these rules is said to result in death or being taken to join their ranks forever. Night marchers are most often associated with ancient battlefields, royal burial sites, remote valleys and coastal paths, certain areas of Oahu, Maui, and Kauai, and even the Big Island. These are places where the boundary between the living and the dead is believed to be thin. Now, some scholars interpret the legend as more than just a ghost story. It's a way to protect sacred land from trespassers, a cultural reinforcement of respect for ancestors and tradition, and a warning about ignoring laws and spiritual boundaries. But locals will tell you this isn't just myth. People still report hearing drums in the distance, seeing torchlight where no one should be, and feeling something ancient marching just out of sight. One of the most active and feared locations, where multiple witnesses have reported seeing lines of torchlights moving along the coastline late at night, is Kaena Point on Oahu. Hikers describe hearing drums and conch shells, followed by the sound of synchronized marching. Some claim to have seen shadowy warriors emerging from the cliffs and vanishing into the ocean mist. Locals warn the Kaena Point is a gateway between worlds, a place where spirits travel freely. On Oahu, a place already rich with ancient Hawaiian history, night security workers have reported chanting echoing through the valley with no visible source. Witnesses claim to see figures in formation moving through the trees, illuminated by unnatural light. Some accounts describe a sudden drop in temperature, an overwhelming dread right before the sounds begin. On this valley in Oahu, many believe it was once a training ground for warriors, which may explain why they still march there. Kalama Valley, a quieter residential area with a dark reputation. Residents have reported hearing footsteps marching past their homes in the middle of the night. In some cases, people claim to have seen full apparitions, carrying torches, moving through the streets and their yards. Dogs are said to go silent or hide moments before activity begins. This suggests the marchers don't only stick to remote areas, they follow ancient paths, even if modern homes now sit on them. The volcano in Puna district on the Big Island, where fire and spirits are deeply connected. Witnesses describe seeing processions moving across lava fields, completely unaffected by terrain. Some report hearing war chants carried over long distances, even when no one is present. There are even stories of people who ignored warnings and later suffered unexplained illness or death. These sightings are often linked to sacred ground and ancient battle sites. No matter the island, the reports share eerie similarities. Drums, chanting, or conch shells before anything is seen. Torchlights appearing first, followed by figures. A feeling of paralyzing fear or pressure in the air. The sense that the marchers are aware of you, even if you can't fully see them. They've been seen on cliffs, in valleys, even walking through neighborhoods built over forgotten ground. Torches where there should be none, footsteps where no one stands. And every witness says the same thing. They weren't wandering. They were on a mission. All right, gardeners, this episode is a special one, as it is my great Uncle Sam's private, personal Black Garden file. Now, he refused to share this with his higher-ups, or even his team, because it was too personal. And in his own words, and I'll start it with his own secret redacted file. Personal memorandum for my eyes only. Author, Commander Samuel. Classification, Black Garden, personal, do not catalog. Location, mountains above Maui, Hawaii. Date, redacted, this incident is intentionally omitted from the official Black Garden archive. Reason? My family was present. No tactical team, no weapons, no surveillance equipment, no objective. Only witnesses. I have investigated entities across multiple continents, and this remains the only encounter in which I deliberately choose not to investigate further. The phenomenon demonstrated intelligence, discipline, and apparent adherence to a strict ceremonial route. There was no attempt to pursue, communicate, or attack. The greatest danger appeared to come from violating its established rules. The local caretaker possessed prior knowledge and likely prevented casualties through immediate instruction. Recommendation: do not deploy Black Garden personnel to intentionally intercept or document these processions. Respect local warnings. Respect sacred ground. Some mysteries are not hidden because they cannot be found. They are hidden because they have chosen to let us live. And here, in his own handwritten words, is what happened on that faithful family vacation. The first thing I noticed was the jungle had gone silent. Not quiet, but silent. The kind of silence that makes your own heartbeat sound too loud. This was supposed to be a vacation. Easy, relaxing, much needed. After years of chasing things no government would admit existed, I promised my wife and our 2 young children that Maui would be different. No investigations, no reports, no monsters. Just a small cedar cabin tucked high into the mountains above the island, where the trade winds carried the scent of rain and plumeria through the open windows. And for 2 days, it was absolute paradise. On the 3rd night, paradise stopped breathing. I woke just after midnight to a sound I couldn't explain. It was a huge boom, thunderous, like a drum. It was far away. But then I heard another boom, boom, perfectly timed, just as loud as the one before. I stepped onto the porch barefoot, expecting a cultural celebration somewhere below the valley. Instead, I found only darkness. No lights, no cars, not even voices. Just the creepy, islandy fog rolling between the trees. Then I heard the chanting. It was low at first, but it was unmistakably ancient and rhythmic. My wife quickly opened the cabin door behind me. "Sam, who's outside?" I leaned back into her. "I don't know." The drums grew even louder, pulsing, thumping. Just then, my youngest son ran into the living room, rubbing his eyes. "Dad, I hear people." Then every insect in the forest stopped, as if someone had pushed a button and they all disappeared. Not one chirp, not one bird, nothing. A cold breeze drifted uphill, carrying the smell of a burning torch oil. That's when our elderly resort caretaker came running up the trail. His face had lost every ounce of color. "Inside," he shouted. "Now!" He wasn't looking at us. He was looking past us, and down the mountain. I followed his eyes. There, I found tiny orange lights, dozens of them, moving in perfect formation through the trees. And they weren't flashlights, but torches. The caretaker grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. And for a moment, I almost fell back on my training. And if I had, I probably would have hurt the old man. He continued, "Whatever you hear," his voice trembled, "do not look at them." I had survived too much to believe ghost stories. Heck, I have seen the worst possible kind of entities. But then the drums reached the cabin. The entire hillside vibrated beneath our feet. The chanting wasn't echoing anymore. It was outside. The caretaker forced us to the wooden floor. "Face down," he whispered. "Don't move." I played along, but I grew impatient quickly as my daughter began crying. I pulled her beneath me, covering her ears with my hands while my wife shielded our son. Heavy footsteps marched past the cabin, not running, but marching. Hundreds of synchronized feet. It was overwhelming. The wooden walls creaked as if something immense was passing only a few yards away. Torchlight seeped through the gaps in the curtains. Orange fire with wisps of gold. Then shadows of human silhouettes, but not just any kind of humans. Warriors. One after another. I wanted to look. Every instinct screamed at me to see what stood beyond those windows. But the caretaker dug his fingers into my shoulder. "If they know you've seen them..." And suddenly the old man couldn't finish the sentence. The chanting stopped. The footsteps quickly followed, and they stopped. Everything stopped. But something stood outside the front door, waiting. I heard slow breathing, then 3 deliberate knocks. Knock, knock, knock. My son started to lift his head. I pulled him back down, just as another knock echoed through the cabin. The door never opened, and no one spoke. Nearly a full minute passed before the footsteps began again. Slowly at first, but eventually they continued up the mountain. The drums faded. The chanting disappeared into the clouds. Only after sunrise did the caretaker allow us to stand. Outside, the damp volcanic soil surrounding the cabin was covered with footprints. Hundreds of them. Every set led uphill. None came back down. The caretaker refused to explain further. He simply bowed toward the mountain and whispered a prayer in Hawaiian before telling us to leave the resort immediately. After a 30-minute argument with my wife, we checked out before breakfast. Unfortunately, I never brought my family back, but I've never forgotten the sound of those drums, because whatever marched past that cabin wasn't looking for us. It was simply reminding us that some paths belong to the dead. Years later, while reviewing local newspaper archives and speaking privately with residents who agreed to talk only after sunset, I found a story that never appeared in any official report. Roughly a mile from our cabin, another family had checked into a small vacation rental on the same mountainside that very evening. According to the caretaker, they laughed when he warned them not to wander the trails after dark. Just after midnight, Neighboring guests reported hearing distant drums echoing through the valley. Some stepped outside to investigate. Others watched from their windows as a long line of flickering torchlight slowly climbed the mountainside. One witness claimed he saw a man from the neighboring cabin walk toward the trail with a flashlight, calling out, believing a late-night cultural ceremony was passing nearby. Then the chanting stopped. For several long seconds, there was nothing. No drums, no wind, only silence. The torchlights disappeared into the forest, and the next morning, the family's cabin stood open. Coffee still steamed on the porch. Children's toys were scattered across the yard. Suitcases remained unpacked inside, but the family was gone. Search teams combed the mountains for days. No evidence of foul play was ever found, and no signs of struggle. Not even tracks leading away from the property. Only a single line of unusual footprints stretching toward an ancient trail before ending abruptly in solid volcanic rock. The official conclusion listed the disappearances as unexplained. But the locals had another explanation. They quietly said the visitors had ignored the oldest rule on the island. They went looking for the march. And unfortunately, the night marchers looked back. To this day, whenever the drums are heard rolling through those mountains after midnight, residents close their windows, lower their voices, and stay well away from the ancient paths, because everyone who lives there understands one thing: you don't follow the night marchers, and you pray they never notice you. All right, gardeners, I think we have time for a quick email I got from a listener last season. Subject titled, "I never told anyone this." Hey, Michael, I've been listening since season 1, and your episode finally gave me the courage to share something that's haunted me for the last 10 years. In the summer of 2016, my wife and I stayed in a rental house just outside of Lanai on Maui. Around 2 a.m, I woke up to what I thought were drums coming from somewhere in the hills. At first, I figured there was a late night luau, but the rhythm never changed. It was slow and steady, almost military sounding. Then every gecko outside stopped chirping. It was crazy. My wife asked immediately why I had gotten so quiet. I looked out the bedroom window and saw what I could only describe as a line of orange lights moving through the trees above the house. They weren't flashlights. They flickered like old tiki torches. I remember hearing voices chanting, but I couldn't understand a single word. The strangest part was our neighbor. He stepped out onto his deck, looked toward the mountain for just a second, then immediately dropped to the ground face first. He stayed there until the sounds disappeared. I had no idea why. The next morning, I asked him what happened. He looked at me for a long time before quietly saying, "You heard them, but they didn't stop for you. Be thankful." He refused to say anything else. For years, I convinced myself I imagined the whole thing, until I saw a story about the night marchers on a late-night TV show. I think this would be a great episode for your channel. I've never gone back to that part of Maui, and I don't know if I ever will. Keep up the great work. David. Well, David, thank you for reaching out. And your email was one of the reasons I decided to do an episode on the night marchers so quickly. Thank you. Also, if any other listeners would like to share any of their experiences or sightings with the Night Marchers or anything else that goes bump in the night, I'm here to listen. I can be reached at any of the socials. You can just DM me or message me or email me at pbgharvest@gmail.com. But as for this episode, I wanted to wrap it up with maybe the Night Marchers are nothing more than an old Hawaiian legend, a story passed down through generations to keep people away from sacred places after dark. Or maybe legends survive because someone lived long enough to tell them. If you ever find yourself on a quiet Hawaiian mountainside and the jungle suddenly falls silent, if you hear drums where there shouldn't be any, or see torchlight weaving through the trees, remember what you've heard tonight. Remember my great Uncle Sam's words. Don't follow the march. Don't stand in their path. And whatever you do, do not look at the Night Marchers. I'm Michael, and this has been Project Black Garden, a Monsters and Myths podcast, Season 4, The Nightshade Files. And remember, monsters are real, so sleep with one eye open. Because monsters aren't always hunting. Sometimes they're simply passing by.